Quick question. When's the last time you looked at your roof, your furnace, or your monthly rent check and thought, I have no idea how I'm going to keep up with this? If you're 62 or older, you're not alone and you're not out of options. There's a whole set of programs, federal, state, and local, built to help older adults handle exactly that. Repairing a home that's aging right along with them, downsizing without losing their footing, or getting a break on rent that's climbing faster than their income. Let's go through what's actually out there, what's confirmed, and what's still just talk. The bigger picture first. Before we get into specific programs, it helps to understand why this topic keeps popping up. The U.S. is getting older, fast. Within the next few years, every baby boomer will have turned 65. And for the first time in the country's history, older adults will outnumber children. That single demographic shift is reshaping a lot of policy conversations, and housing is one of the biggest. Here's the tension underneath it all. Plenty of older homeowners are sitting on a paid-off house that's worth good money on paper, but they're living on a fixed income that can't absorb a surprise $12,000 roof repair. Flip that around, and you've got renters watching their Social Security checks get swallowed by rent increases year after year. And somewhere in the middle, you've got people who genuinely like to move into something smaller and easier to manage, but aren't sure what that even looks like or what it costs. So when someone mentions a new housing bill for seniors, this is usually the backdrop they're reacting to. I'll be straight with you. I haven't come across one single federal law that neatly wraps up repairs, downsizing, and rent assistance into a single package. If you've seen a headline claiming that, it's worth a second look before you take it at face value, because this space tends to move through a bunch of smaller, existing programs rather than one sweeping bill. So let's go through those programs one at a time. Part 1, fixing up the home you're already in. Repairs are usually the most urgent piece of this puzzle. A furnace that dies in January doesn't wait for you to save up. The USDA Section 504 Home Repair Program has been around for a while and specifically targets very low-income homeowners with added benefits for people 62 and up. It offers low-interest loans for repairs and modernization, and in certain cases, straight-up grants, usually reserved for removing health or safety hazards from the home. One thing to know, this program leans rural since it's part of USDA's broader rural development work. Dollar limits shift over time. So instead of throwing out a number that might be stale by the time you watch this, I'd suggest checking directly with your local USDA Rural Development Office or rd.usda.gov. Then there's the Weatherization Assistance Program, which comes out of the Department of Energy, but gets delivered through local agencies. Think insulation, sealing up drafts, fixing an inefficient heating system, anything that lowers energy costs and makes a home safer to live in. Seniors are typically treated as a priority group here, and unlike Section 504, this one's assistance, not a loan you pay back. Worth mentioning too, most communities have an area agency on aging, partly funded through the Older Americans Act, that can connect people to home modifications like grab bars, ramps, or walk-in showers. The whole point is keeping people safely in their homes instead of forcing a move just because the house hasn't kept up with their needs. Let's put a face on this. Say there's a homeowner, we'll call her Carol, 68, living in a small town on a fixed income, and her water heater just gave out while her front steps have turned into a genuine fall risk. Instead of financing that on a high-interest loan, she could call her local USDA office about Section 504 and separately reach out to her area agency on aging about the steps. Notice that's 2 different phone calls, 2 different applications. That disconnect is one of the most common frustrations people run into. The help is out there, but nobody's bundling it into one tidy application for you. Part 2, what downsizing help actually looks like. Downsizing works a little differently than repairs because there isn't a tidy program with that name on it. It's more of a scattered landscape. So let's walk through it honestly instead of oversimplifying. One shift worth knowing about. A number of states and cities have loosened zoning restrictions to make accessory dwelling units, sometimes nicknamed granny flats, easier to build. The concept is simple enough. A parent or grandparent downsizes into a smaller unit on a family member's property, staying nearby without carrying the cost of a full-size house. This isn't a nationwide policy, though. It comes down entirely to local zoning, and the rules can look completely different 20 minutes down the road. For homeowners with significant equity, a reverse mortgage sometimes enters the conversation. It lets someone 62 or older convert home equity into cash while skipping monthly mortgage payments and staying in the house. I'm not going to tell you whether that's a good move for your situation. It comes with real trade-offs around fees, inheritance, and long-term cost, and that decision belongs with a HUD-approved housing counselor or a licensed financial advisor, not a YouTube script. There's also HUD Section 202 Supportive Housing for the Elderly program, which funds housing built specifically for very low-income seniors, often bundled with services like meals or transportation. It's less moving into a smaller house and more moving into housing designed with aging in mind. Waitlists tend to run long, so this is generally something to look into well ahead of an urgent need, not after one shows up. Bottom line on downsizing, there's no single federal switch to flip. It's about understanding your local zoning options and treating any decision that touches your home's equity with real caution. Part 3, getting some breathing room on rent. Now let's shift to renters, since most of this conversation tends to center on homeowners, even though plenty of older adults rent. The big one here is the Housing Choice Voucher Program, better known as Section 8. HUD funds it, but local public housing authorities run it day to day, helping eligible low-income households, seniors included, cover part of their rent in the private market. Demand outpaces supply almost everywhere, and wait lists can stretch into years in some cities. If this is something you might eventually need, getting your name on a list early matters more than almost anything else you could do. Beyond that federal program, plenty of states and counties run their own rental or utility assistance specifically aimed at older residents, often layered on top of what's already available federally. And don't overlook the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIHEAP, which helps with heating and cooling bills, a meaningful chunk of a fixed income budget, particularly during brutal winters or heat waves. Notice the thread running through all three of these categories: repairs, downsizing, rent. The assistance exists. It's just scattered across HUD, USDA, the Department of Energy, individual states, and local nonprofits with no single office handling all of it. So where do you actually start? If any part of this sounds relevant to you or someone you're helping out, here's the most useful first move. Call your local area agency on aging. Their entire job is knowing which of these programs operate in your specific city or county and pointing you toward the right one. Benefits.gov and HUD.gov are also solid places to check current income limits and application steps directly from the source, since those details do shift, and I'd rather send you there than guess. One last thing worth saying plainly: this is a moving target. Housing policy for older Americans keeps evolving, and if a genuinely new federal bill combining repairs, downsizing, and rent assistance does show up, it hasn't been confirmed as passed law as of this recording. Treat any breaking headline about it the way you treat any big claim. Verify before you act on it. Wrapping it up. Here's the short version. For home repairs, USDA Section 504 and the Weatherization Assistance Program are your main starting points, alongside your local area agency on aging. For downsizing, it's less about one program and more about local ADU zoning rules and options like Section 202 senior housing, with reverse mortgages being a serious financial decision that deserves professional input, not a quick YouTube answer. And for rent, Section 8 vouchers and LIHEAP carry most of the weight. Nothing here is financial, legal, or medical advice. It's meant to point you toward what's actually available so you can walk into the right office already knowing the right questions to ask. If this cleared things up for you, go ahead and hit like, subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this one, and let me know in the comments which of these three, repairs, downsizing, or rent, you'd want me to dig into further. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.